And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com, episode 208. Here we are, recording an hour and 25 minutes later than I should, usually on the day that this is due. We're here. It's Queer Month. Get used to it. How's it going out there? You can't answer. Very good. Okay. I took a week off, but I forgot I'd do the show. It's very hot today. I just came back from buying cat food. As you also can see, if you're watching the video, you can see that there's a new lighting setup because I purchased, still no job, I purchased a set of lights from Amazon, from the newer store on Amazon. A lot of products from C Plus Comedy's past and from newer. But now everything looks super dark. I have my windows, my shades closed, just to keep all. Again, I'm on the top floor of this apartment, so the heat rises. Oh, but the sun also rises. The heat also rises, and that is the title of the episode. You think anybody will get that? I don't think so. I don't think anybody remembers that book. In my head, I said movie, and out loud, I said book, so I'm not completely stupid. But the lights are doing well. They're doing their job. They're not terribly hot. Yeah, they're LED. They're great. Only the good thing, bad thing, USB plug-in. USB regular type B, I believe. That's what USB is. Yep. Lots of stuff going on here at C Plus Comedy. So let's get on with the news. Oh, I forgot to start the timer. Jiminy crickets. Ugh. Don't you hate that when you forget to start something? Don't start no stuff. There won't be no stuff. So what's going on? Last week I saw In the Heights. Not once, but twice times. Once at home, and then I liked it so much, I journeyed to the theater to see it. I saw it in Dolby at the AMC Dolby Atmos THX, whatever they call it, and the Dolby Theater presentation. I'll tell you, for a Sunday afternoon showing at 4 p.m., seemed to be a lot of people in the theater. So I chose seats purposely that were me and a friend that went, a friend and I. Yeah, doesn't matter. Purposely like the third row, so you walk in and then you have to, it's right there, but not, obviously not by the door, because I don't want to be bothered by people at the other end. And we sat there, and it was enjoyable, even from that close up on the screen, and you could basically only hear the left speaker. I could not tell the difference between watching it at home. Well, actually, no, I could. Because you definitely heard the difference in the songs, and you definitely heard the difference in the sights and sounds. So I'm lying. I definitely did hear the difference. So much so that I could hear that they auto-tuned Corey Hawkins' voice. And I don't know if that was the point. I hope it wasn't, but I definitely heard it in the song When the Sun Goes Down. I believe that's what it's called. He sings it with the young woman that plays Nina when she's about to leave for college. That's not. I mean, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. They get back together at the end of the movie. It's a happy, friggin' joyous movie. So I saw that movie and enjoyed it. But I definitely 1,000% heard the auto-tune in his voice. And I urge you, if you have seen the movie, even if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Go to HBO Max, because it's there for the next 2 or 3 more weeks. Watch the movie, because I'm going to watch it again, of course. Obviously, I love that movie. I'm not kidding. Definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. It's true. It's very true. Watch the movie, and then, or go to the last, 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the movie. Yeah, I think that's like a false ending. Go to the last 20 minutes of the movie, and the sun is going down. The sun is setting. In the heights. In the heights, the sun is setting. That's one of the songs. In the heights, the sun is setting. And you can, and Corey's up there with the woman that plays Nina, whose name I refuse to look up. Check it out, and you can definitely 100% hear this auto tune. Put in headphones, or get it like a good set of speakers. But you can definitely hear it. like when I was in the movie there, I was sitting there like, oh, that's very very strange that they left that in because it warbles. His voice warbles, so he hits not low note, like a mid note, upper note, and it's very noticeable. So definitely check that out. Speaking of In the Heights, it happened to be my first topic. That was not on purpose. I just had to do some pre-ramble for the first 5 minutes of this stupid show. In the Heights did not do too well at the box office. Now, there are some circumstances surrounding that. We are in the middle of a pandemic, or at the tail end of a pandemic. I'm gonna say in the middle because no one knows when this is gonna end. I'm still wearing a mask to the gym. I wore a mask inside this the shop where I pick up Nova's food. I wear a mask inside of the grocery stores. So, in the middle, and we thought when Warner released Wonder Woman H19, Jesus. When I said I wanted to say HBO Max. When Wonder Woman 1984 was released, and I'm noticing that the camera is it's struggling in the low light, the video, and I can see I'm using OBS Studio to record this, and I can see that the video is it's about half a second behind, and it's because the camera is so old and it's struggling to keep up with low light. It obviously has a picture because I can see it pretty decently lit, but it's still, and it's really struggling. So the video that goes up with this is not going to be good. Can't promise you everything. I'm 7 minutes in. I can't start over. So when HBO Max, when Wonder Woman 1984 was released on HBO Max, it was also released in theaters, and so that was the first day and date movie for streaming just for this year on HBO Max, and it did well enough. It was the best performing movie of the year because it was one of the only movies that came out in theaters, and so. It did gangbusters, which in terms of that first month, and I will look this up. It did really well. Let's see. I can't speak obviously and do it. It pulled in $166.5 million US dollars. Now I'm going over here to Box Office Mojo, which is the legal way to count this movie. But domestically, it raked in $46,534,000. Now, that's not good for a movie of that caliber. But coming off of a pandemic, that's fantastic. Christmas Day, on Friday, it pulled in about $7.5 million. That Saturday, $5.8 million. And Sunday, $3.4 million. Now, I would say a majority of people saw that movie on HBO Max. Obviously with these numbers, and obviously with that being the middle of a pandemic, so a lot of people saw it on HBO Max, and I just moved the mic. If you're hearing a sound, the arm, and no one knows how well it did. Same thing for the little things, with the streaming number. Same thing for the little things. Same thing for Godzilla vs. Kong. Same thing for Judas and the Black Messiah. These movies, even though they were released in theaters, doesn't mean that they exactly did well on streaming numbers either. Even though we know that Godzilla vs. King Kong is one of the highest grossing movies right now because pandemic. So In the Heights failed when it came out. Fizzled. Again, this is like the maybe 10th movie to come out in theaters between January and now. This comes from Rebecca Rubin at Variety. HBO Max isn't to blame after In the Heights fizzles at the box office. So people, the obvious thing here to blame would be to say, hey, since they put it on streaming, people went to watch it on streaming. And that is quite possibly true. But then, you're not factoring in those who went out on that weekend and watched it again, like me. Those who are waiting to finish up their vaccine. It's just like there's just a bunch of things going on. I can't believe I forgot The Conjuring 3. Anybody want to say what I thought or anything? Don't forget about Conjuring 3. So obviously we're still in a rebound. America is not back, Mr. Biden. So please stop saying that. But this is coming from Jeff Goldstein, who's a domestic distribution for Warner's. He's saying, this is what Warner has also been saying since Wonder Woman was the first one announced. Streaming is not going to have little, if any, effect on box office sales. Look at Godzilla vs. King Kong. Look at, I'm sure Cruella and Raya and the Last Dragon, and I'm sure Black Widow coming out, and I'm those are going to do just as well in the box office. It doesn't even matter if they're coming out on Disney Plus Premier Access or whatever it's called. I think it's called Disney Plus Premier. I think those are just going to do just as well, or decently. I think Black Widow might be the first Marvel movie not getting a $1 billion box office. But we'll get to that in 1 second. This is what Mr. Goldstein said. Our experience, which is backed up on In the Heights, is that if the movie hits a high level in theaters, it hits a high level on the service. If it hits a low level in theaters, it's a low level on HBO Max. They're really very comparable. So, if you apply what he said, that theory, to the box office performance of In the Heights, that means that it also did not do well on streaming. That means that it failed. And I gotta say, it is my most anticipated movie of the year. And you know what? It lived up and well past my expectations. And also, I had no expectations. In the Heights carries a $55 million production budget, which means it needs to gross roughly $110 million at the global box office to cover that cost. Also, the movie was held for a year, so I don't think we can really get those numbers back in the same boat. But that doesn't include the tens of millions of dollars more that Warner Brothers spent on marketing the film, which they did. They marketed like crazy. I'm still getting commercials for it. Yesterday I was watching something on Peacock, and I got 2 back-to-back In the Heights commercials for it. That's crazy. Yes, I watch Peacock. A lot of SNL on there. And Girls 5 Eva and Rutherford Falls. I don't subscribe, so I've only seen the first 3 episodes of both. Oh, my God. Plus, the $55 million figure doesn't factor in the millions of the back end that Warner Brothers paid Miranda and Lin-Manuel Miranda and director John M. Chu to keep them happy after the studio decided to put the movie concurrently on HBO Max. And so that's another thing that the streaming, when they announced the streaming and theater day and date, the creators, really, the directors and the stars and the producers, they were up in arms in regards to, hey, they typically get points, especially if you're high enough in the production. You typically, if you're a producer, if you're a producer or you're a star, no one else gets points. They typically get basically extra money if the movie hits certain thresholds. And so that's like Denzel Washington for The Little Things. He, maybe was supposed to get, I'm making up a number. I think Gal Gadot, I think this is a good one. I think Gal Gadot was supposed to get $25 million on the back end of that movie. Or no, they just paid her that money because that was roughly what she was going to get. Something like that. It was either her or it was either Denzel. One of them. But they're going to get a lot of money on the back end because the movie was supposed to hit certain thresholds. So the movie did well. In the Heights did well critically, and people loved it, with the exception of the people who were complaining that there were no Afro-Latinos, even though that there were. And even if there's not, if they don't make up half the cast, and they had to cut story, and they also had to cut story, they had to cut a lot of stuff. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I love that movie. I see nothing wrong with it. I understand the plight of people. The problem. So here's the problem is, people say that the movie, there's a storyline where Betty, Corey Hawkins' character, was dating the Nina character, and then the dad of Nina didn't like Benny because he was of a darker complexion than he and Nina, who are of lighter complexion, but they're all Latinos. Because there's stigma between darker Latinos and lighter Latinos, and same thing like the stigma of every darker race compared to every lighter race. I get that, but if you want that nuance, go watch the play. The movie's 2.5 hours, and obviously that's. I mean, there's longer movies that deal with with kind of the same level stuff. However, we are at a point in history where Latinos and Asians and Indians and indigenous peoples and black people and just a slew of races. And I was talking to somebody about this. Where we have this chance we're finally getting chances to make great pieces of art, and it's all and sadly enough, it's getting all mired in the fact that we all have to make the same thing. Everything that we make has to talk about our identity and our race and everything, and that is just not the point for everything. Rutherford Falls on Peacock has a bunch of American Indians in it, and it is a great comedy. And yes, Ed Helms is the star, but his co-stars are a bunch of great, funny, and interesting brown Indian people. And it's just such a lovely show. And it doesn't. And while the culture is there, Same thing for Sneaky Pete. There was a season, the Amazon show Sneaky Pete. There's a season where they were going to con a casino, and I think there was like a 3-episode story arc where they featured a bunch of Indian actors. Fresh Off the Boat is a show that waded in the race territory, but also the thing that all these shows have in common is that, and now enter In the Heights, is that they can make those ideas can be on the periphery, but they're still making the same thing their white contemporaries are doing. And that's what we have to remember. Not everything has to be about this, the dreary topic, sadly enough, the dreary topic of race, and you got to stand up for the culture and everything. In that respect, I should be. This is so stupid because I said that I made this joke earlier this week to somebody, so it's not fresh. So when I tell you this joke, it's not fresh. But people are getting mad that there's no Afro Latinos or there's a little amount of Afro Latinos in the Heights. I should be mad that there's no Black Americans in Black Panther. It's the same thing. I see no fault in comparing that. I should be mad that there's the people should be mad that there's no German Jews inside of Polish Jews, Israelis. There's no Israelis in I don't know. Let me think. What's a Jewish show? I can't think of a Jewish show. The Goldbergs. I just look. The thing is, and I hate to be such a stickler about this, but not everything has to be about race, and not everything has to, because I've said this quote so many times, and I don't even listen to the podcast anymore. But there's a show on New York Times called Still Processing, hosted by Jenna Wortham and Wesley Morris. I stopped listening because one week they did an episode about Kanye West, and Wesley started crying. Very true. Because Kanye has, and I don't like using this term, mental health issues. And he was like, oh, I'm just so sad. Kanye, he's losing his mind. So anyway, but they did like an Asian focused episode way before it was cool. They did an Asian focused episode. And I thought I saw a water spot. If you're watching the video, I just looked up like 4 times to see if there was some type of stain on my wall, but there wasn't. But they did an Asian focused episode again before it was cool, And they talked about, and they just talked to a bunch of Asian people in the media, who were artists, who were actors and producers and writers and everything else that one can be in the entertainment industry. And someone said, we can't jump on every. I'm paraphrasing it, but he said we can't jump on everything, because at some point they're going to stop taking us seriously, and by they mean the white people. And yes, at some point that is like, if we complain about every tiny little thing, like if I say tickle those ivories on a piano, and someone's like, you can't call them ivories, it's a color, you call them piano keys, and you don't gender the piano. You can't jump on everything. So it's we just gotta be smart about this. So what I'm saying is, In the Heights is fine, let it go. It's the one, like, is anyone mad? Like, I was listening to one show on NPR years and years ago, when Fresh Off the Boat was still on the air, and they were the hosts were talking to an Asian person, an Asian critic, an Asian sorry. An Asian critic, yeah. The person who was an Asian, and they were a critic, and they brought up Fresh Off the Boat. The host brought up Fresh Off the Boat, and then the critic goes, yeah, but they're not all Chinese, and I was just like, but that's the point. They're not all Chinese, and all the Chinese characters are played by Koreans. Like, it's either, like, it's an inside joke for the creators and the crew of Fresh Off the Boat, but second, they're bringing all these Asian faces to ABC, to broadcast television, which does not have, for the longest time, did not have people of color. Look at CBS, didn't have people of color. Now it's got like the darkest shows on broadcast. The darkest shows on broadcast. Anyway, I just went on a rant for like 15 minutes. So don't blame HBO Max. In the Heights did well. You got Rita Moreno coming out defending In the Heights, and then she had to walk back her comments. She said, I'm ashamed in myself. No, you're right. You're right. It's we Latinos. I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say just Latinos, Cubans, and people from Dominican Republic and Puerto Ricans. There's a movie. I'm sure I'm missing others. Please don't get on me. But there's a movie starring a bunch of those races of people, and they're singing and they're dancing, and it's good. And it's so good. It's so good. Just watch the movie and enjoy it, and hope and pray that more studios come out and want to make this stuff. Hope that they want to come out and make more Crazy Rich Asians, and more In the Heights, and more and more. I was gonna say Lovecraft Country, but God, that show is. I don't know. That show doesn't know what it wants to be. And I said it. Yeah, I said it. Doesn't know what it wants to be. It says it's confusing like Westworld, except not confusing in a way that I want to find out what happens. It's confusing in the way of, why did they write this? Why did Misha Green write this? She wrote every episode. There's a writer's room. This next one comes from Todd Spangler. Over at Variety again. BuzzFeed will pay for user-contributed content this summer for the first time, up to $10,000 per post. Now, that doesn't exactly mean that you're going to get $10,000. You can get $5. But BuzzFeed is going to allow content submissions. I just didn't want to say that word. Content from the people that know it the most, the readers. I guarantee the readers know better than the writers, than the freelancers. The more the viral, Spangler writes, contributors' articles are, the more they'll get paid. But the page view thresholds they have to hit are pretty steep. So it's unclear how many people will actually be able to cash in on the new BuzzFeed program. The BuzzFeed community team is launching the Summer Writers Challenge, which will pay cold hard cash to contributors with the highest performing content over an 8-week period starting Tuesday, June 15th through Sunday, August 15th. The goal, the company said in announcing the program, is to, quote, explore what happens when we combine BuzzFeed's scalability with tangible rewards from our community's most creative and resourceful users. Now, I'm not a huge fan of BuzzFeed. I think that you talked to me for 5 minutes about the news industry, and I will definitely tell you, I do not like BuzzFeed. However, they won a Pulitzer. They won a Pulitzer like this past, either the Pulitzer or the Nobel. It is a Pulitzer. They won a Pulitzer a couple weeks ago. It's interesting. I'm not gonna fall down from that. I'm not gonna smack them on the face and say this is stupid. I'm gonna say congratulations. They won a Pulitzer for I think it was for the George Floyd protests for their reporting on that. So that's very good for them. And if I'm wrong, it's still good for them. But this is they do make some interesting moves over at BuzzFeed, and you can't I'm not a huge fan of Disney, but Disney's everywhere, and I gotta give it up to them. Not a huge fan of Apple, but Apple's everywhere. Apple's right in front of me. You gotta give it up. They know what they're doing. Contributors can earn up to $10,000 for each post, depending on the number of page views each article receives. The payments are based on a sliding scale. For each post that surpasses 150,000 views, contributors who apply for the program will get $150. 500,000 gets $500. 1 million gets $2,000, and if you reach 4 million, you get $10,000. So that means you got to tell your friends to tweet and retweet and share on Facebook and do all this stuff. But I'll tell you what, I wrote when I was still at news station. I wrote an article, and again, this is a local news station in a number 9 market, which they would not let me forget. You better believe I went back there and I asked if I could have a job, and nobody responded. It's very true. It happened like 2 weeks ago. It's all right. When I win my Emmy and my Oscar, I'm going to get up there and go, you effing jerks. This is a middle finger I'm holding up, but it's my fist. Because it's a clean show. When I was there, I was tasked with writing the top baby names. Top baby names. The year had just started. Not a joke. Top baby names of the year. And it was I think it was February or March. Top 20 baby names. And so I had to make 40 slides for the girls and boys. So 20 each. Different colors, and put the names on there and make sure they're all centered and stuff. And no writing in the article, just top 20 baby names for the year. And a couple of weeks later, I tried to pitch something, and I was told no. And then I said, if we're not gonna, this is so pretentious, but I was like, this is gonna be challenging, the readers and stuff, and it's really interesting, and it's a great story. And then my manager goes, Chad, that baby article you wrote a couple weeks ago, it's got 1 million and something views. You should be proud about that. And I'm like, no. I said no. So all I had to say is 1 million is hard. 1 million is very hard to reach. And I did a list, and I did no words. It was just pictures and a list. And I think I worked on that for about an hour. And I got that. And he said it's 1 million views, and it's the highest. It's the most read article of the year. And I just I don't care. Ugh, so stupid. Now, BuzzFeed community has done this before. They've run sweepstakes and stuff with prizes like gift cards and all that, and bragging rights. But this is something where you can actually earn money. Now, I would love to see if this does well enough that if somebody, manages to do 3 or 4 in a row, would they be hired to BuzzFeed? That'd be interesting. Because I would definitely say hey, internship or freelance or something. But that's very good. I wonder how much they pay their freelance, because if they're willing to do that, now that I mention it, I wonder how much they pay their freelancers. If they're willing to say hey, if this page gets 1 million clicks, because there's a lot of great writers out there. There's a lot of great writers who are freelancers, and they bounce from place to place, or they work at multiple places at once. And it makes me think that, if Andrew Ross Sorkin Uh, one person I could think of. I was watching CNBC this morning. If Andrew Ross Sorkin wrote something for the New York Times, and then he writes something because he writes the deal book for the New York Times, but then if he writes something for the Atlantic, and or Dave Grohl guest writes an essay for the Atlantic about his mom and how she helped him and believed in him when he was starting out as a musician. And that gets 1 million views. Do they get money on the back end? Speaking of points, this makes me think. This next one comes from the rap written by Lindsay Elfson. Okay. So this is a very interesting piece that I found not an hour ago. Collider updates Scarlett Johansson's story after being called out by freelancers. So here is the thing. A young woman named Sade Spence speaking of freelancers, wrote an article that was posted that had back in 2019. Okay, just slow down here. When you are a reporter for a big conglomerate like Collider or IGN or The Wrap or Variety or whomever, when you're a reporter, sometimes you go to these press events where you interview in press events for like a big movie, and you go and you interview, of the famous star of the movie. So Interstellar is being, I don't know why I thought of Interstellar. No, really, I thought of Ad Astra, and then I said, no, that's not big enough. Interstellar's being made, and it's shooting in, I don't know, Iceland or Greenland. It's shooting in Greenland because there's snow everywhere. It's in one of the things. It's shooting in Greenland, and you and 40 other people from 40 different outlets go, and you're put in this, this hotel, and you're sitting across from Matthew McConaughey, and you have 3 minutes or 5 minutes to get to ask him, only questions about the movie and nothing else, because that's all you have time for. Hey, Matt, how you doing? I'm good. And he's got to sit there and do that for 4 hours in like one day, and with no breaks or anything. Hey, Matthew, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. All right. I'm all right. All right. That's what he says. And he does all right. And he, and you ask him, oh, how's Interstellar? Can you tell us, what does your character think of what's going on in the political climate now? Or what would your character say to space traveling with SpaceX or Blue Origin or whatever? So they'll ask him stupid questions like that. And that's what I try to avoid. Not that I've been asked, but that's what I try to avoid. And so Ms. Spencer, the freelancer for Collider, went and did this for Black Widow back in 2019, where she spoke to, Scarlett Johansson. Everyone's favorite Asian and trans actress, Scarlett Johansson. She said that, not me. During her trip, she flew overseas for 24 hours. Like, that's how quick these things are. During her trip, she asked Scarlett a question. Here's the question. Quote, there's this hypersexualization of female superheroes and even Black Widow. Not Wonder Woman. I don't know if she's ever seen Wonder Woman. I've never felt attracted to Wonder Woman. I'm very attracted to Gal Gadot. I've never felt attracted to Wonder Woman. Have you seen this change, and how will this be different in the standalone film? Then she and all the reporters present that day. Jesus, Chad. Then she, all the reporters present that day, waited 2 years to publish the answers to get their questions back, respecting an embargo that was lifted this week. Collider, I'm going to read this the only way that I understood. Collider ran a story, because I understand English. Collider ran a story that failed to mention Johansson had spoken to an assembled group of reporters. So it made it seem like their person, who was Miss Spencer in that case, got an exclusive interview with Scarlett. They changed it into the layout, instead of it being, Scarlett said this to the reporter, Scarlett said this. They changed it to Q&A, which it was not. Again, it was a group of reporters. When Biden talks to the press corps, he's not talking to one person, even though he yelled at Caitlin Collins, which she deserved it. Yeah, she's a woman. I'm kidding. It was a joke. But she's my age. And here I am. I'm recording a podcast for no one, and she's talking to the world. That was so sad. And they made it look like it was a one-on-one. So you can't do that. A, that's bad. B, that's unethical. Maybe switch those around. B, that's unethical. A, that's bad. Johansson's response to Spence's question ended up being used for the Collider headline. Then the Hollywood Reporter picked up Johansson's response, attributing that question that prompted it back to that's bad. The Hollywood Reporter said that the Collider said it. Then Ms. Spence took to Twitter and said, excuse me, I wrote this. She wrote, quote, on Twitter, "We may have been in a group setting, but it wasn't Collider who asked this question. It was me for the female empowered outlet. Oh, Hello Beautiful." So I even misunderstood. Okay, Ms. Spence was not a freelancer for Collider. She was a freelancer for something else. For Hello Beautiful. So then, Collider's editor-in-chief said, "You may not like this answer, but as someone who's been doing this for 15 years, bad. Do not do that. And done hundreds of roundtable interviews. Who gives a crap? When you do a group interview on a set visit, every question and answer is shared by all reporters on the visit. Nothing is credited to one outlet." That's wrong. That's wrong. Because you can even see it back if you watch a lot of news, which you should not do. But you can even see it back when Biden first took office and everybody was talking to Jen Psaki for the first time, or even when Trump was still in office, and you can see him getting mad at like very specific, like, I'm mad at CNN, I'm mad at NPR. He would say, "You guys are always bullying me." Whenever Washington Post or New York Times or Wall Street Journal, whenever one of those outlets was talking about that incident, they would always say, "This person from this outlet asked this question." This is what this is also an issue I had at news station, because there was always this, like, as something as small as like I don't know, small, but like a tree landing in the middle of the road, and or no, or like, like the mayor saying, "I don't like cheese grits." This is not a true story, but I don't like cheese grits. And a reporter from WSB being in the area and hearing that, and then them writing up a story, and then the other three news stations go trying to find, they can't say like, "Hey, this was originally on WSB." No, we have to go out and we have to call and say, the assistant to the mayor, and go, "Did he really not like cheese grits?" That's just stupid. So this is not a we thing. She asked that question, so she should get the attribution because it's hers, and she was smart enough to ask that question. But so now Collider had to go back and tweak the story. Even if she doesn't get attribution, they can say it's a group interview, and that's fine. That's good enough. Anyway. All right, that was way too long. To put a button on that, women have it a little bit tougher when it comes, because if I don't know, Walter Cronkite asked that question, then it would have been headline news. But women have it tougher, and especially in the media, when compared to their male counterparts. All right, this is the final thing, written by Mike Ryan over at Uproxx. Seth Meyers is finally hosting the late night he wants, but will he keep things the way they are? So Mike Ryan did the one thing that I've been wanting. Well, one thing. He did the one thing I've been wanting to do with the late night show since this pandemic, since they started shooting back in the studio. So I'll probably dig into this next week, because next week's episode is probably going to be about Conan, because this is last time on TBS show is what I meant to say. But if you've been watching late night for the past 15 months, you see that Seth has really turned the show from what generally a broadcast late night show is. If you watch Jimmy, you'll see that, even when he was at home, it was still, we got to hit these beats, we got to hit these viral beats, and this is what we're going to do. We're not going to deviate from the kind of jokes we tell. Even when he brought in his family, which is good enough, which is good for Jimmy, which is same. And same thing can go for Kimmel, Corden, Colbert, Conan, and Samantha Bee, Deesa Samiro, and Amber Ruffin. Not Amber Ruffin, she's different too. But Seth, for the past, I would say, when he went to his in-laws' house, so maybe a year. So after those initial months when he was shooting in the attic, but then for a very long time, he's been doing this show that is for comedy writers. That's for people who just enjoy just pure comedy, and it's been a lot of inside jokes, a lot of recurring jokes from the past 3 or 4 months, a lot of story arcs, and it's wonderful. And Mike Ryan and maybe 300,000 people on YouTube who consistently watch not just A Closer Look, but also the monologues and also the extra bits that they do. And this new online digital exclusive, I guess was what they're calling it, it's called Corrections, and it's 20 minutes of Seth doing corrections on the previous shows for that week, saying, I pronounce a word wrong, and he goes on a 5-minute tangent of why he's right of pronouncing that word wrong, and it's great. It's so funny. So I urge you to watch more late night. But Mike Ryan has clued in on this. Cued in. He's zoomed in, and he's gotten a chance to talk to producer Mike Shoemaker and host Seth Meyers after I believe last week to talk about this, and he's basically. This is a back and forth Q&A interview saying you need to keep this show the way it is right now, because without an audience, Seth and his writers, including Amber Ruffin, Jenny Hagel, and Scollins, and the rest of the Wally the Cue Card guy, they are thriving. It is so good, and I'll get more into this next week. But God bless it, this show is my favorite late night show to watch right now. Watching Colbert when he came back, that the first couple episodes, I can't even get it. I can't get through the monologue because all it is just clapping. Same thing for Conan. I love Conan. He's my hands down. I don't like to say I idolize people, but if I did say that, he's definitely my idol, like my number one guy. And it's that show started. His show started. He started hosting late night when I was born, the same year I was born, like 3 months before I was born. No, 3 months after. 3 months after, excuse me. I'm born in June. July, August, September. Yep, 3 months. And so I love Conan to death. But his show on TBS, and I'll get into this next week, just straight downhill. So Seth's been doing this wonderful show full of callbacks and tangents and non sequiturs, and it's just been so good. It really pays to watch that show every single night because he'll reference something from like 3 weeks ago, and I love it. And they talk about how the tide changed because there was no audience, and because there's 10 people inside of the studio. I don't know what this is. Oh Jesus! Oh my God! Oh, interesting. Okay, something good finally happened. I should stop checking emails in the middle of class. In the middle of class? Oh, God. Podcasting is school. That's the title of every episode. I'm kidding. But truly, it's been so good, and it's been so wonderful to just see these great people. And I mean, an extension of that, and I promise I'll end the show in a second. But an extension of that, the Amber Ruffin show, which shoots in the same studio as Late Night with Seth Meyers, and it's hosted by one of his writers, and it's also written by another one of his writers. I mean, just the fact that it's amazing. It's amazing, and They're doing things that I can officially truly say that no one in late night is doing. No one in late night is doing what Seth is doing. But similarly, and I'll tie this up with that. With this, no one's doing what Sam is doing. Sam B. No one is doing what Z-Way is doing. Desus and Miro. So congrats to all of them as well. There's no one in late night I dislike. I just don't like audiences. It's very true. Everyone has something that I enjoy, and yeah. All right, listen, I gotta go. I gotta go. It's late on a Friday. By late, I mean it's 4:00. But listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to people. Next week, there was an interview I recorded last week, and I just didn't put it out this week because I didn't want too much to go up at once. I gotta spread this stuff out because it was with Shelby Wolstein, I believe that's her name. I don't know. I should look it up. Yeah, Shelby Wolstein. Shelby Wolstein, nice young woman that hosts a pod. We'll talk about this next week, but she's very funny. Hosts a podcast on HeadGum Network. Co-hosts a podcast on HeadGum Network. So definitely be on the lookout for that. That'll probably be up next Wednesday or Thursday. I'm thinking Wednesday, maybe Thursday. The rate I work. You want to see a video version of the show? YouTube.com/C+Comedy, where you can see me. I sit down in front of the camera. Also on youtube.com/C+Comedy, you can see comedy. Hey, it's Peter Griffin. It's not even close. This shirt is so sweaty I'm wearing because I walked down to get this cat food, and I drenched. And it's like a 5 minute. It's not even 5 minutes. It's like a 3-minute walk. Just wet. And I came back. And then I said, I got to do this podcast. News time. News time is our premiere show. I'm getting tired. I always, I said to myself, I'll get to 400, then I'll stop. And 400 will be next year, but I don't even know if I can make it to oh no, I want to get to 500. That's the goal. And if nobody's watching by 500, then I don't know what I want to do. News time. It's like the Daily Show, except less funny. Daily Show is going off the air until September. We'll talk about that next week. Daily Show is funny. This week, I take a topic and I dive into it this week. This week's episode is about. Oh, I was going to do an episode about a topic about E3, but whatever. It's 45 minutes long. This week's episode is about E3, and not very good E3, not very good video, but it talks about how E3 wants to rebrand itself. So there's that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter @C+Comedy. Rate, review this podcast on wherever you get your podcasts. Tell your friends about it, please. God, please tell your friends. All right, we're going away. Bye-bye. Oh, didn't start yet. All right, hold on. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's something wrong with Anchor on the iPad. And it's pausing and not doing stuff correctly. So we're going to play this again. All right. So we're going to say goodbye. Oh, shoot. All right, here we go. Goodbye. What the heck? All right. We're not using Anchor anymore. Here it is.